So let's look at the suprarenal glands. The left and right suprarenal glands are quite different from one another. The left being pyramidal with two limbs, so it's shaped like a star, and the right being semilunar in shape. It is golden brown and golden yellow in color, and it's composed of the outer cortex and an inner medulla. Then we can see that the most external part is also covered by the perirenal fat. Then we have the renal fascia, and underside of the renal gland is connected to the upper pole of the kidney with the help of fibrous tissues. Lastly, we can observe that each of these glands measure differently. For example, we have the right gland, which is much more smaller, measuring just 6 centimeter in length or 61 millimeter in length, compared to the 79 millimeter or 8 centimeter long left suprarenal gland. So let us look at the right suprarenal gland. So that's the anterior and the posterior side of the suprarenal gland right there. Anteriorly, we have a lot of surface. So that's the area for the bare liver, because we know on the anterior aspect of the suprarenal gland, we have the liver. And that's the bare area of the liver that is in close relation with the anterior surface of the suprarenal gland. Then we have the area for the diaphragm and the area for the suprarenal vein, that is on the lateral side of the lateral aspect. Then we have the area for the right kidney that is inferior to the anterior side. Then on the posterior side, we can notice that most of it is covered with the area for the diaphragm, and then posterior inferiorly, we have the area for the right kidney here too. Okay, so that right there is the suprarenal gland. So I'm just gonna point it out for you that that right there is a suprarenal gland, and it's in close association with the infravena cava. As you can see that the infravena cava is lying anteriorly to it. Then we have a duodenum that also lies anteriorly to the inferior border of the suprarenal gland. Then we have the right lobe of the liver and also the crus of the diaphragm. I don't know if it's not really visible, but the crus of the diaphragm is somewhere here. It is found posteriorly. And then we can see that posterior to it, we have the entire kidney is posterior to it. As you can see that the suprarenal gland lies a bit ahead and the kidney comes after it. So that's the thing that lies behind it. And then we also have the diaphragm that lies behind it. So yeah, that's all that you have to consider while talking about the right suprarenal gland. Then we have the left suprarenal gland. There's nothing much to say about the left suprarenal gland except the fact that it lies posteriorly to the lesser sac of the stomach, and most of the anterior surface of the suprarenal gland is covered by the lesser sac of the stomach. As you can see there, the stomach is right in front of the suprarenal gland right there of the left side. And then what we can see is that the inferior part of it is much more in contact with the superior pole of the kidney, which gives it a rounded appearance. It is also in close relation with the left crus of the diaphragm. As you can see, the small line over here is known as the left crus of the diaphragm, and it's in close contact. So this one here is the left crus actually. So that is in close contact with the left crus of the diaphragm. The next thing that we can see that it is more concave. It is concave externally. We can see that it is not only covered by the peritoneum, but lies adjacent to the pancreas and the splenic arteries. Then we have the hilum of the suprarenal gland, from which there is an emergence of the suprarenal vein. So let us look at the arterial supply of the suprarenal glands. So the suprarenal glands are supplied by the superior, the middle, and the inferior suprarenal arteries. So the superior one comes off of the abdominal aorta. The branch of the abdominal aorta that it leads to is known as the infraphrenic artery. Coming off the infraphrenic artery, we have the superior suprarenal gland. Then let's take the abdominal aorta again. And then coming off of the abdominal aorta, we have the middle suprarenal and the inferior suprarenal arteries. Okay, so that is what we're looking at right here, is a supply of the suprarenal gland. So these two arteries, the double arteries that come off of the inferior artery of the infraphrenic artery of the abdominal aorta, are known as the suprarenal arteries. superior suprarenal arteries. And then we have this part known as the middle part of the adrenal gland that comes off of the abdominal aorta, and then we have the inferior part that also comes off of the abdominal aorta. The proximal, which artery is this one? So it actually comes off of the renal artery, but sometimes it can also come off of the abdominal aorta and also the gonadal artery. The venous drainage of the suprarenal glands is made by the right suprarenal vein and the left suprarenal vein. The right suprarenal vein is very short and it drains into the posterior part of the inferior vena cava, as compared to the left suprarenal vein, which is comparatively long, and it drains into the left renal vein. You can clearly observe the structure right here. So the really small artery that goes into the hilum of the suprarenal gland comes off of the posterior part of the inferior vena cava, and the other one is quite larger and goes into the hilum too, but it comes off of the renal vein of the artery. The lymphatic supply is done with the help of the subserous lymphatics, and then we have the supracaval nodes. They drain into the supracaval nodes and then the para-aortic node. Then we have the nervous supply, which is by the suprarenal plexus, and then the aorticorenal plexus, and lastly the celiac. The microstructure of the suprarenal gland is divided into the suprarenal cortex, and then we have the suprarenal medulla. The medulla is much more smaller in length and encompasses about one in tenth, like 1/10 part of the entire suprarenal gland. It's not really that important. A person can actually survive without the renal medulla as compared to the suprarenal cortex, which is much more important for and the absence of the suprarenal cortex is actually fatal. So the suprarenal cortex is divided into further layers. The first most superficial layer is known as the zona glomerulosa. Then we have the zona fasciculata. Then we have the zona radicularis. The cells in the first layer are polyhedral cells that are arranged in circular manner inside the zona glomerulosa. And if you take one cell and if you look at it closely, you can see that the nucleus is basal and secretes basophilic substances outside. It's a deep staining nuclei and which is provided with a lot of ER or endoplasmic reticulum. The next thing that we can notice is that the other layer of the cortex is known as the zona fasciculata. The zona fasciculata has the same type of cells, but the only thing that we can notice is different is the fact that there are a lot of venous sinusoids, which are fenestrated venous sinusoids, and then we have two cell thick polyhedral cells that are found between these sinusoids, and they do the same job, that is secreting the basophilic substance into the sinusoids right here. Then we have the circular cells inside the last layer, or the radicularis layer. The job of this cell is to secrete hormones because, of course, we know that it's a gland, the suprarenal gland, it's a gland, so it secretes hormones. The first layer secretes mineralocorticoids, such as aldosterones that help regulate the water level inside our body. Then we have the second layer that help regulate the glucose level in our body, which are known as the glucocorticoids. Example of one of the glucocorticoid in our body is the cortisol. Then we have the last layer that secretes sex hormones. The deepest layer of the entire suprarenal gland is known as the medulla, and the medulla consists of columns of chromaffin cells. And these chromaffin cells are supplied by thick venous sinusoids. So you can see these right here are the venous sinusoids. And then the entire structure is also provided by reticular connective tissue fibers. So these fibers that you can see right here are the reticular fibers. Now, if you take a chromaffin cell and if you look at it closely, you can see that there are a lot of granules. And these granules are of two types. One secretes catecholamine and the other secretes adrenaline. It also secretes non-adrenaline and secretes it into the venous sinusoids. And these sinusoids are lined by fenestrated endothelial cells. So they just pass into the venous sinusoid and into the bloodstreams. And is quite important because these chromaffin cells are under the influence of the nerves, the autonomic nervous system, and the release of them is really necessary in order to carry out the fight fight flight response of our body, which is usually taken under stress.